Hi there.
Hi.
Davida.
Oh,
Now we have Minna.
What do you think? Should we get started?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Okay, thank you all for coming. This is the December meeting of Community Board Seven's Housing and Land Use Committee. We have sort of a short agenda, given that we've been so busy in months past. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Sure.
Second, any opposed?
Second.
Okay. So just a few quick updates, and we can go into this a little bit more in detail in our January meeting, but the Bloomingdale Library RFP was released. I think it was I'm losing count of days now, last Friday, I think. I attached it to our minutes so that you could, our agenda, so that you could take a look at it. It's definitely, there's some surprises in there, at least to me. So that's interesting. We should talk about that a little bit in more detail. The second thing is the final report from the New York City Council's Charter Review Commission, which is called the New York City Commission to Strengthen Local Democracy. Just came out with their final report. I think we should put that on our agenda for January to discuss. There are two big things. Ballot question number 4 is about community planning and fair housing. And there's also some other notable proposals, they called it. There's like a sort of miscellaneous section at the end that also is worth our consideration. So we'll put that on the agenda for January. That's just a heads up, and you have the report if you want any holiday reading. Okay, so should we get to the heart of our meeting, which is goal setting. I think you all saw the email coming out of Ava Stryker's, I forgot her last name, oh my gosh, Ava's report, which asked us to set goals as a committee. I think it's like 3 to 5 goals or something, something we'd like to achieve in the next year. And in sort of conjunction with that effort, we'd love to get your sense of what topics you'd like us to discuss in the coming year. Sorry, I'm just promoting a couple of board members.
Okay, well, one of the things I think that we should talk about is organizational and process, because we had a meeting with Cynthia Tibbs. Minna sent that article about NYCHA and the problems with RAD and PACT. And do we want to just do it straight as housing? Do we want to do a task force? Do we want to do a subcommittee? Because it can overwhelm us. It's so huge. And just, I would like to hear how people think that we should definitely deal with it, but how we should do it.
This is Polly Spain. I definitely feel that we need to have a subcommittee or a working group.
Is there a distinction between the two in your mind, Polly, or are they the same thing, just different titles?
As far as the RAD and the PAC?
Yeah.
It's the same program, basically.
No, I meant working group versus subcommittee or task force.
I think we should start out as a working group first. Because I said in my last meeting with you and Louisa, we still have a accelerated timeline coming up in January. There's a lot of information that needs to be digested. The leaders need to meet the members of the housing committee, as I said, to build the trust factor. And there's certain issues that need to be addressed. So if we're going to exclusively focus on RAD and PAC, we definitely need to start out, as I said, with a meet and greet in January. Okay. And then from there, build up a schedule. I think that we have to meet at least definitely a minimum once a month. Okay. And then again, since we do have like a time schedule that NYCHA gave to us at the Garden Riverside meeting, you know, this is moving pretty quickly. One of the things that we need to look at is the legal aspect of the leases, LEASE. I do know that some members in our committee do have a background in that. There's land use issue, landmark issues that may come up, which I know Louisa has a background in that as well. So we really do need to put together a working group at first, because remember, there's supposed to be a transitional team put together as well. So I think out of that working group, definitely some of the members on the committee may be able to get involved in that, because that's another piece.
Beverly?
I would note that a working group would enable us to engage with relevant board members from other committees, while a
Right.
subcommittee is a little bit, a little bit more exclusively housing and land use members. There may be, if there are issues around preservation, we might, for example, want to engage with at least one member of the Preservation Committee. If there are other issues that cross committee lines that are directly related to NYCHA, we might want to have an individual representing that aspect. So I think the working group is a good place.
That sounds right.
Miranda? Miranda, I think you have your hand raised.
She's muted.
I'm sorry if I missed, I was a minute late, but why, can you hear me now? Hello?
Sorry,
I'm
we're
not
cutting out a little
muted.
bit.
Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Your video's jerky, so you might have a bandwidth issue. If you
Can
turn
they-
off your video, it could work better.
Okay. I'll just try and talk and okay. Why we wouldn't just address this as part of the committee and why we have to have a separate group to discuss all this?
And I think the concern might
Okay,
be that.
maybe this is better.
Yeah, that's much better, actually. I think the concern about having it just be part of housing and land use is that it might overwhelm our agendas, because there's a tremendous amount of work that is associated with us supporting the residents as they go through this PACT or RAD conversion. So that's the trade-off, is that then that might be what we do for the next year if it stays as not a subcommittee.
And a smaller group also can move faster. And we had a meeting with 4 people last week, and I thought it was very effective, and with Polly and Cynthia Tibbs, and as long as people report back to the full committee, I think it works really well to have small groups and then to go back, especially when we have to deal with people who are not on the community board. Comments?
Well, as I said earlier, to Louisa and to the committee at large, okay. We're on a timeline with NYCHA. They've made it very clear that they want to move fast. There are many developments here on the Upper West Side, okay, that have to be notified first. And I also feel that, because it's a lot of information that needs to be digested, if we kind of meet just with the full committee, I don't think that we would be able to have the time to bring everybody up to speed on actually what's going on, because you got to have some background experience on how NYCHA as an agency works, okay? And because of the cuts in DC of 45% right now, coming down the pipe. So this is very important to all of the residents that live in these complexes. And I, to myself, as a public housing resident, affects my building as well, okay? So I definitely want our community board committee to be aware of the changes that are going on. But as I said earlier, we have to move fast. And so I do know that SEMA and a few of you have attended some of the meetings. And then in January, we will have a presentation to kind of break it down on the work that has to be done. And I am hoping that some committee members would want to be part of, as I said, the transition team, okay? And it just helps if you have some background knowledge on the issues that we're gonna have to deal with. Specifically, drawing up of the new leases, you know, that's phase one. Then there might be an issue with landmark. So that's why it just makes it easier to have individual members who may have some professional knowledge and experience in those areas right now. That's what we're dealing with. Later on down the road, we may have to deal with things like construction, you know, environmental protection issues, et cetera. But right now, we're at that phase one where we really want to focus on protecting the rights of all of the residents as we go from Section 9 programming to Section 8. So I will be conducting a presentation in January, which I agreed to do, to kind of let the committee know what the RAD program is about. And we're getting information from NYCHA on a need-to-know basis. So things are changing as we speak. So when we do meet in January, things may have changed between now and January. That's how fast we're moving.
Thank you, Polly. Miranda, do you still have your
Yeah,
hand up?
do you think that, can you guys hear me better now? Hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Sorry about that. I just wanted to clarify. So I heard Polly mention that we need to act fast. I guess I'm not so sure on why we need to act fast. What is it, a past deadline that we're up against?
Oh yeah, we're up against a deadline because NYCHA basically presented this to us a month ago. We had several meetings with Goddard Riverside. And right now, again, according to the schedule that we were presented with, residents will be notified in January. We don't know how that's going to look right now. Everything's being done on a need-to-know basis. So that's why what I'm saying to you is that things are happening so quickly, okay, that maybe in January things might change, but we don't know. All we know right now is that we are going to go through this program. We will be notified in January, but we don't know the setup where these meetings will take place right now. So that's what I'm saying, that we need to have a working group that's basically going to be available. We're going to do a meet and greet with all the resident leaders so that this way they get to know the members of the community board. So when you say you don't understand why things are moving so quickly, we're going according to what the agency NYCHA is saying to us right now.
Yeah.
So
And,
I really
sorry,
go ahead.
No, I guess I'm just trying to wrap my head around, because I totally defer, of course, to you and SEMA, and SEMA's the chair of this committee, about like if we're going to be so swamped with other things in January. But I just sort of feel like, look, I think that this is something this board at large has not dealt with NYCHA very well, and it's something that I can't figure out personally. Like, it's something that as a member of this board, I've wanted us to do better on. And so I guess I just sort of making a separate group that people may or may not attend, and pushing it further out of the limelight versus making it a real priority of the housing committee. I'm just not sure why this couldn't be our January agenda, and why this can't be a big focus of our committee going forward. And I guess that's why I'm sort of confused in terms of things going fast. I just wasn't sure what the rush was. I totally defer to you on this, and I'm not trying to, I just wanted to make sure I understood, but that would just be my 2 cents, that instead of having a working committee, like other members of the board can come to the committee if they want to talk, if they want to, you know, be a part of it the same way that we always say at full board, like come to the committee if you want to talk. But that would just be my 2 cents on this.
Well, that's the whole purpose. Again, as I said in January, we first have to meet with the leaders, because I'll be honest with you, there's a, unfortunately, there's not really a positive perception of the community board because of the fact that in the past, unfortunately, a lot of members really did not engage with any issues regarding the public housing community. So we're trying to change that perception. And that's why we were doing the meet and greet first. Okay. And then, of course, the committee will be there, we hope, you know, at some point. There are other issues such as the ABC site and, you know, other issues going on at, what is that, 100th Street, I believe. Yeah, I think that's what we had spoke about. So we didn't want to overwhelm the committee with another major issue with this transition, because this is huge. So that's why we will be updating, you know, whatever working group we put together. Of course, we have to update the committee as a whole, but there's so much that's coming down the pipe for our community. So everyone's going to have to basically, you know, kind of be boots on the ground, so to speak, because you have, to me, like 3 major issues and changes going on within the housing in our area right now. So as we get information from NYCHA, definitely that information will be shared.
I mean, it's an interesting point that you make, Miranda, about this is a real priority for us. So by creating a working group or a subcommittee, it's not meant to diminish the importance of the issue at all. But maybe we figure out a way to have the subcommittee be a little bit more nimble so it can meet at the convenience of the tenant leaders, because they're the people that really need the support. And then we can report back to the whole committee on a regular basis, whether that's a monthly update or a quarterly update, something like that, to be kicked off also in January with Polly's presentation of the process.
Yeah, and I totally, and again, Polly, I hear you that it's one thing that I don't know who, I'm not saying any one person or group is responsible. It's like, it's just something I've noticed my time on this board that like we really have not had a good relationship with NYCHA, and it's really frustrating. I think, at least I know I speak for myself and a lot of others on the board who think that we should have a better relationship. And I don't think it's anyone's intent, but I just sometimes wonder if making it a subcommittee of a committee of the board, if that gives the impression that this isn't important. And if that like would contribute to the tensions that are not always like so great. That's all I was throwing out there. Like, because I think I can only speak for myself, but I feel like it's probably the priority of a lot of other people on this board anyway, for it to be stuff like that's why that was one of the things I wanted to be on the housing committee for, right? There's so much NYCHA within our community board borders, so many developments, so many apartments, so many residents. And so like, that's just something that I wanted to, I guess, throw out there if it makes sense, but I hear you for sure. And if I can help with the subcommittee, I'd love to. Yeah.
Okay, if you're talking about diminishing, I think making a subcommittee that is only dealing with NYCHA actually emphasizes our concerns with what is going on right now with RAD and PACT.
Yeah, it's my understanding that we're talking about a working group. I you know, not a
Yeah.
sub.
Yeah, right. That's correct. I was just going to chime in. Those are different things, and we should use the terms. I mean, working group can be anyone who's on the community board. It stands as an independent thing. It would primarily liaise with the Land Use and Housing Committee, but would not be a subunit of the committee, like a subcommittee. Right. I mean, public safety is also. Wait, did we say working force or working group or task? What was the public safety had a working group too, right? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes.
Yeah.
Beverly?
Yes, I misspoke by saying subcommittee. I meant working group.
I did
Yeah,
too.
I just wanted, I think we've beat this to death.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to recommend that the co-chairs working with Polly create a proposal for such a working group and present it, you know, via email to the rest for comment, and that it include people we feel are critical to the needs of the NYCHA tenant leaders right now, as Polly said, it's certain areas that are really the most, and that group can change over time, obviously, as other issues emerge. But I think we just should empower Polly and the co-chairs to figure out how to get this done.
Sounds good. Just to jumpstart maybe the conversation. So we had 2 responses to our survey. Minna, do you want to talk maybe about your responses?
I'm not sure I would remember them
Oh, I can
necessarily. I know that I mentioned the issue that was raised with respect to the NYCHA houses and the fact that at least one Upper West Side development that has already been pushed into the RAD program is considered to be the worst in the city in terms of getting repairs done. And to look at the impact of RAD on NYCHA residents, on getting repairs done, and things like that. So I thought that that was something that we should focus on. And I think the second thing I raised was the issue of affordable housing and the idea that our neighborhood doesn't qualify for subsidies. And, you know, this Bloomingdale library is being pushed forward. Not, you know, it's city-owned property, and we're not, you know, it's a perfect opportunity to get 100% affordable housing, and we're not even eligible for that. So I think that we need to look at whether our neighborhood can get subsidies and, you know, or whether we're being redlined and simply cut out of that package and at the same time criticized for not providing enough affordable housing. I think those were my issues.
Yes, no, you're right. Exactly. So we can add that to our list. Ideally, we could get a representative from HPD maybe to talk to us about how they think about, you know, subsidies across the city.
Mhm.
And transparency into their process would be helpful.
Yeah, the HPD idea I thought made sense because, you know, at the Bloomingdale presentation, people were like grilling the library and EDC about it because that's who was there, but they're not the ones who make the call on where HPD dollars go. So if we can just get HPD to come in, explain the process, talk about how they do this on a citywide scale, I think that's a much more useful forum rather than saying, you agencies that are here, we're gonna ask you questions that you can't answer.
I just want to remind everybody, HPD is not going to be functioning until sometime in February. We don't know who the commissioner is yet. It may be the same, it may not be. You know, the current commissioner is only an acting commissioner at that. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, and we can
I mean,
put
the
out the
counter-
invite, they can send a rep or not, I don't, you know, it'll.
We also can wait, you know, until things settle a little bit, and maybe this is for our March meeting or something.
Yeah,
like
but I
that.
mean, most of the professionals there are still going to be there. Like I have a good friend who works at HPD. You know, he's not going anywhere. I can ask him who would be a good speaker on this topic, and I'm sure whoever he says is going to be someone who also, you know, is a career person who is going to remain on. But he might say yes, wait till February. But I think we should at least ask. You know, if they say that it's not a good time to come speak, then they say that. But I'm pretty sure someone there can speak to this particular issue.
Yeah, and hopefully if
Right.
they
One-
think the Mamdani administration is going to make massive changes, they might want to wait to get direction on that. But if they think that's not going to happen, they can explain what their current marching orders are, at least until they get different.
his campaign promises are for massive changes. So we should be prepared for whatever those are.
Right.
I'm not sure he really knows what they are yet.
But I also think that by simply asking the question and starting to, you know, agitate on this issue, we're more likely to get the funding. You know, if we simply are silent and allow sort of the redlining of our area to take place, then it will take place. If we start raising questions, maybe we get on somebody's agenda.
I
I just
I
wanna-
agree with Minna, because the thing is that we can bring it to Ma'am Denny's attention, because the mayor actually decides the agenda for the mayoral agencies. So to some extent, we have to wait and see who is going to be it, but I agree, we should make a little noise and let them know that we're here and that we're concerned. Also, Julie Menon has been talking about converting libraries to basically market rate housing with some affordable stuck in. And I understand that the
Exactly
Brooklyn
this kind of
Library,
development, right?
I'm sorry?
Exactly the Bloomingdale model is what she's been talking about replicating across the city.
Exactly. But the thing is that she's talking about doing it throughout the city, and Brooklyn, which is a different public library, but they have done it in Brooklyn Heights, except they've even gone even further, because they have a shorter building, but it is all market rate, and they did affordable offsite, which
It's
is
kind of
Can I
like
just
this.
say,
Bloomingdale.
I just want to say one thing on this idea that the Upper West Side doesn't get subsidy. I think we need to be very clear that I understand that we're looking at new construction, but the Upper West Side gets a tremendous amount of subsidy in preservation deals. So I just think that I understand that right now we're saying, oh, we haven't had a new build funded by HPD in a long time, but there is a lot of money from HPD that flows into buildings on the Upper West Side to keep them affordable and keep folks in their homes. So I just want to make sure that, we are very clear that we do get a lot of money. I understand that it's not going into new construction, but the money is coming to our community and it's supporting us. We can say, we don't want you to keep subsidizing units that already exist. We want new units, but that's going to put a lot of pressure on projects that, have LIHTC agreements that are
I don't think we're saying
no.
that.
Yeah, I understand, but I think this idea that we don't get any subsidy is
No,
giving
but the
people a
point is,
totally inaccurate idea of what's actually happening.
But
That-
Adam,
that's
Julie
my only
Menon
point.
Menon is
problem
now
is-
talking about moving the city council, pushing the city council to basically tear down libraries and put up new housing. If they're doing that, I don't know why we can't get what we're looking for.
it's also that we are being criticized for not building new affordable housing,
Exactly.
while at the same time, we're not getting subsidies for building new affordable housing. If they equalized it and said, we're going to criticize you and give you money, and now, and you get affordable housing, I think we'd all cheer for that. The problem is that we're getting the criticism without the means to solve the problem.
Well, I think EDC is trying to say here's a way to do it because a lot of subsidy is already going into keeping folks in Mitchell Lama buildings, LIHTC buildings. So that's fine. We can have that discussion. I just think that we need to be realistic that there's only so much money, and compared to other neighborhoods, we have a much higher percentage of money that's going into preservation deals rather than new
Then give us credit for that. Then we should be getting credit for the preserving of affordable housing in our neighborhood instead of being criticized that we're not building it.
Yeah, like, hang on, we can take a time out. We don't need to solve this problem right now. I think the committee does not have an official position on how much money we should be getting from HPD. We might have individual members might have their own thoughts. I think if we're going to extend an invite, it's to explain the process. We're not going to explain why the process isn't X. We just want them to tell us what it is they do. And then people can ask questions with their thoughts. And if there's a desire to pass a resolution, we can discuss that and pass a resolution. But they might have good reasons for doing what they do. We might think they're bad reasons. I don't know, but we're asking them to give, and we're asking them to present, and we'll talk.
I mean, I think when EDC came, they were pretty clear about the reasoning that happened here, right? City Hall said, we're gonna, this land is valuable, therefore we're gonna have a model that, the full rent apartments. I mean, HPD is, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think this decision came from HPD. This decision came from City Hall, right? If City Hall wanted this to go through HPD, they would have transferred the land to HPD. They specifically did not do that. So I kind
Right.
of feel like us pretending that we don't know what's going on here is setting us back a lot of time. Like, I actually think EDC, I mean, they sent pretty junior people, but it was like, it's pretty clear what's happening here. This was a decision
Yeah.
made by City Hall to go through EDC. There's not a lot of mystery here. If we as a board want to push back and say, we think this should go through HPD and this should be 100% affordable, that's a different conversation. But to pretend like we don't know why, or we don't know what happened here, I think is a little silly, frankly.
Yeah, I agree, Miranda. It's yeah. If we have a problem with it, we should talk to City Hall. HPD just they take marching orders and they get projects and they work on them.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I-
say,
I- well,
Same with
and-
EDC, right?
We're
Like
not saying that we have a problem with it. We are saying some people had questions about
Yeah.
why HPD isn't subsidizing a project here like they did in Inwood.
No, I actually think a lot of
See-
us are saying we do have a problem with it, though. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. That's what I was saying a lot when EDC
Some
came, and
people
that's
said
what a lot
that,
of us.
but the committee.
But
has
no
not
one's
said that.
right, fine. But I don't think anyone's
Yeah.
unclear on the process here. Is the
I
point. Like,
want to say
Right.
something that's going to be very unpopular here, but as an issue of public policy, spending subsidy money on the Upper West Side is a very cost ineffective way of generating housing. And
Correct.
HPD knows this, and all the housing finance agencies know this. It costs us more to build here for any number of reasons, and this is all showmanship. And the building they're proposing at 100th Street is a phenomenally cost and effective way of producing housing. And one of my concerns is that they may say, well, if it's this problematic, we're just going to sell the land outright. That, of course, becomes a subject of the ULURP, and that will happen years off. But the reality of it is there are a lot of other places in the city, and even in Manhattan, that you can build housing for far, far less, that will be far, far better quality. And so the idea of preservation, which Adam raised, if we can get money, there are opportunities to preserve existing buildings that are not currently in that chain of city subsidy. And the building on 107th Street that just went to supportive housing use is a perfect example of that. There are any number of buildings in Manhattan Valley that are in the same economic position as mortgage rates climb and expenses increase. So I think that may be a better opportunity.
Are you saying, though, that you don't think it would be valuable for us to find out how HPD thinks?
I'm not saying it's not valuable, but I think we shouldn't
I
come
think it
at
wouldn't hurt.
which I think the point John made, which is a very good point, is we shouldn't come and say, we want you to do this. We want you to come and explain things to us so we have a better understanding. That's a
Understood.
much better thing. And it also might work better with the fact that whether it's in January or February or March, we may be dealing with people. Now, you're right that the comment is the people at the technical level may be the same people from administration to administration. It may not be, but the people who are making policy are going to be new people. And those are the people that may have completely new priorities. I think we've all been through any number of changes of administration. And I think every day the new appointments that I hear, the names that I hear being thrown around are not necessarily the people you would have expected 2 months ago, right after the election. So let's see what actually comes. If we're with any luck, we're going to get some of these names before Inauguration Day. And we can ask more thoughtful questions and less hypothetical questions. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I think that's right. We're gonna we know approximately what the answer is that their present policy is not to put new building subsidy dollars towards the Upper West Side, and their likely reason is going to be some version of the dollars go further somewhere else, and we can build more units for the same amount of money. Some of us might like that answer, some of us might not like that answer. It's worth hearing them explain it with like some real charts and data and being able to ask them questions. And then we can, if we want to form an opinion and take the conversation farther, we can, or we don't have to, but we want to invite the right people and hear their explanation first, I think.
By the way, at the cost of the comments I just made, WizFish and with my help, admittedly, we did build some phenomenally cost-effective buildings on the Upper West Side, and they're still building another one now. But it's very difficult, and you do need city land to do it. That's the problem.
And I think the point that Minnie was making is that we are being penalized to some extent because we have not built enough affordable housing. And we are going to have to fast track certain projects because of that. That was one of the amendments on the ballot in November. And so if we are being criticized, if we are being held with our feet to the fire, which other community districts are not, we have a right to protest or to try to figure out a way to make this work for us.
I'm not sure everyone views it as a penalty, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
It
Well,
may
but I
just
think
be a statement of fact.
it is going to create more density, more, problems for our local schools, more problems for our local transportation. We will become more dense, and it will be less pleasant to live in a place that is as crowded as we are becoming. So I think we do bear a burden.
That's
And the
an
other
opinion.
thing is that because it's going to be fast tracked, there is going to be less public comment, less public review. It's going to be much faster. People may object to ULURP and the length of time that it takes, but it does try to bring in as many opinions as possible.
Louisa, the process does not change. The community board still has 60 days. So I would suggest that the idea that there's less public input is incorrect, since it's the same amount of time that we have today.
I'm not talking actually about the community board, but the borough president and the community board, as I understand it, are now reviewing at the exact same time, which I think is a mistake.
I don't think this project would even be under the new process because it's not majority affordable. I don't think that it even, but anyway,
Hold on, I think we're getting a little bit too in the weeds. Right now, we're talking about what are topics for future discussions. And I think
We're in the weeds.
Yeah, we are. I mean, it's fun to be there, but maybe just to pull ourselves out for a second. Topics that I heard that we could consider are HPD, having someone come to talk to us about their process, looking at RAD repairs and that process, and in conjunction with what Polly said, what can we do to support our fellow neighbors as they go through this process and hopefully not have the same issues that have happened at White's Towers and Chelsea Fulton and some of the other horror stories that we've been reading about. Other issues are preservation of affordable housing, what Ira brought up, like the 107th Street project, either preservation of affordable and or supportive housing. I think that we should spend some time on the fair housing framework, which sort of underpins some of the final report that the Charter Review Commission has just issued. How that's going to work and how that affects the ballot measures or how they affect each other, I think is another topic that we should dig into because it's coming our way. We better be ready. Other topics that we have sort of floated at various points or people from the community have floated for us are warehousing. What's happening and why is that happening? Any other topics people want to raise? And if anyone in the community, also in the attendees, wants to raise their hand and speak or add something to the Q&A, please let us know. Richard, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wondering what's going on with the effort to curb all these sheds that are up or have them brought down. It's something we ought to explore. I know that the outgoing borough president was involved in that, but I'm not sure where it is at the present time.
Yeah.
And I think it's a big issue. It's pervasive.
Okay. I attended a seminar with the building department on Tuesday morning, and there is a new set of regulations going into effect regarding local law 11, different criteria for different buildings and longer cycles so that the sheds won't be up as long, and the conditions that required sheds no longer will require sheds unless it's unsafe. There's a thing called where you need to do repairs. Doing repairs will no longer generate a shed. Unsafe conditions will still generate a shed. These are big conditions. I think this is available. I don't know if it's available online yet. They were going to put the presentation online, I think, early next month. So that's happening. And there are new regulations regarding sheds that go into effect in January. Were also discussed at that seminar.
Yeah, I mean, that is a future-looking thing.
No, January 1's not that far away yet.
No, I mean, it's for future inspections and future sheds. The concern I have is with the existing sheds and whether there's any effort to speed up their removal.
That's a great
I
topic.
think some of that may be covered in the legislation that's effective on the.
I think we ought to just, get a hold of it, get a hold of the regulations and look at them and see where we are.
Yeah, the ones that city council passed should be on the city council website.
Okay.
And the meeting that from Tuesday, that was a study that actually was started, I think earlier this year, and that's available. And it was a study conducted by a third party engineering firm, well respected, and building department was presenting the recommendations as what they're going to do is the new enforcement mechanisms, which they think will alleviate a lot of this.
Is there anything on the building department website, or don't you know?
Like I said, I think the meeting was Tuesday morning. There were something like 400 people on the meeting, so they were really reaching out to the construction and inspection community. And like I said, they were going to get something early in the month, next month. If they've got something on it now, I'd be glad to share it, but I haven't looked since Tuesday morning. The building department's time frame is not the same as what the rest of us call immediate.
Right.
Yeah, we can follow up on that for sure.
Yeah, I'll try to follow up and
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
One thing that we haven't forgotten, which looms large and will not go away right away, is ABC.
Yes.
I had suggested to FEMA that perhaps a letter asking for whether the current DCP position, which is not what we were led to believe was engaged in putting together a zoning change, which is not materialized, that we could do a letter to City Hall. At least the mayor and the first deputy are in place, and perhaps by January we would have a housing czar or somebody in the City Hall policy area, since this is housing is his number one issue that he's put forth. So a letter basically asking for clarity on what the new administration's policy is on this one remaining huge site on the west side that could support affordable housing, and just put it out there as a letter calling attention and asking for a review of the current status.
That's
That's good news from.
My guess is that nothing's going to happen in city planning until new members are appointed.
I think, though, that there will be an early effort from City Hall, regardless of the actual, individual commissioners as they get appointed over time. There will be some focus on this set of issues. Right now, it's pretty clear to us that the instructions to city planning regarding this site have come from City Hall.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
sorry.
It seems to me it's a moment to say very little time is left before all decisions here are moot. And we would like um, the new administration to review this project to see if the current zoning is consistent with their policies.
Yeah. There was somebody at last night's event with the community board who indicated, and I can't remember who, which is really good that my memory's going on this one, so I can't be held responsible, that they were interviewing for the housing czar, which was basically the equivalent of what Alicia Glen used to be, and they were interviewing for city planning at this time. So hopefully that gives us some results fairly quickly. But once again, I'm not going to give any attributions because I cannot remember.
Yeah,
We also,
one thing I'll mention is that you've probably seen the media report saying that the head of city planning, Dan Garodnick, is likely to get a job perhaps as deputy mayor for housing.
Yeah.
So I would say whether or not that happens, it indicates that there will be some continuity between, you know, the current goals of city planning and the new administration. So, I mean, if Dan Garodnick becomes deputy mayor for housing, I don't think he's going to turn around and tell CPC to change its opinion on the ABC site. I would be surprised if that happened. So something to keep in mind.
what's the status of our discussions with the developer?
I think discussions are ongoing. We, as the three co-chairs, are meeting with Mr. Barnett and Yehuda Gordon on, I think it's Tuesday morning. So we'll see what happens. Not much progress has been made, to be totally honest, but we're hoping to make some. I do think that, and maybe it's a pipe dream, but to the extent that we can get the mayor's attention, this is a, you know, we're all these projects that have been put before us, like the Bloomingdale Library project, you know, 2034, we'll see some housing. We could see housing here in a couple of years. So in terms of impact, like this is the place.
Oh, if I could say this, it's Clara here. There's another development that was surprising to me, at least, that some of you may not know about. We spent a great deal of time in a joint meeting of the Preservation Committee that I'm on and this committee regarding 30 West 67th, which was primarily a preservation issue as to whether Extel could demolish the modern building that had been part of the ABC complex at 30 West 67th. And the plan, although not so entirely committed, but we're told by Extel, was to build 90, I think, units of senior housing there. And I think we thought it was sort of a no-brainer about the demolition, and we spent a great deal of time on some of the details of what would be built there. Anyway, it went to LPC. I did not see that hearing, but I read about it later. And somewhat surprisingly, some of the commissioners said, oh, we love that building. It contributes. It had not been designated as non-contributing. It had been designated as modern. Gee, maybe not so fast on demolishing it. And of course, affordable housing, which is what we were after, and we were semi-promised for that site, is not an LPC issue. So instead of saying, right, okay, demolition is fine, and what has been planned architecturally and presented in the application is fine too, it's appropriate, so go ahead. And then we would be dealing with the best we could of what the exact configuration would be, 90 senior studios or whatever. LPC put it over, didn't decide, and you've got a bunch of commissioners there saying, don't necessarily demolish this building. And meanwhile, at our own joint committee hearing, the applicant had said there was no way the existing building could be converted into housing for various architectural reasons. So the whole combination of what Extel can do, may do, wants to do, what we want them to do with the site as a whole is a little more up in the air now because LPC is saying not so fast on the demolition.
Maybe that's a hardship application we can support.
It's not hardship. Oh, right. It's not.
I'm not joking.
A hardship application, but yeah.
That's interesting, Claire. I hadn't heard that. So what was the outcome of the preservation?
There was no
No
action.
action.
It was put over. It was
Yeah.
no action.
So they have to come back like when will
You know, Tabitha, what happens at LPC after the initial public hearing where there's no action is a massive mystery. We never learn, we never hear about it. We don't know what they do. We don't know who does it. We don't know when it's coming back. It doesn't come back for a public hearing. It may come back for a public meeting. It goes into this black box, you know, whatever the right cliche is.
It doesn't get
And
represented
don't
to the Preservation Committee at some point?
what did you say?
It doesn't get represented to the.
No, that's the
Preservation Committee?
problem. You never hear about it again.
Wow.
And then right.
I
So
wonder
that's
What the
though,
applicant
That's an
saw.
issue that the Preservation Committee has been trying to push on for a long time. I haven't been chair or co-chair of that committee for a long time, but those who have, I know have been trying to get somewhat progress with LPC in terms of coming back to us, but it doesn't happen so far.
I wonder, you know, if a little bit of not pressure, but lobbying on our part and maybe Gail's at LPC, you know, just saying, look, this is in addition to the architectural issues that you're facing here, this is a real life issue involving affordable housing. And we hope that you will consider that in making a decision.
Well,
they're not supposed to, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things on that, Richard. One is, yes, they're not supposed to and they don't.
Right.
Second is that with the new mayor and there is turnover in LPC,
Right.
there may be somewhat of a different set of personnel at LPC. For one thing, Sarah Carroll, who's been the chair for a while, has retired, and I don't even know if there's a new chair permanently. So there's some things going on at LPC, but a couple of the commissioners apparently said, we don't necessarily believe you can't convert this into housing. While the presentation made to us was, we thought, I think, fairly convincing that you can't turn it into housing.
Yeah, well, the core sits at the back of the building.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's sort of a no-brainer. So this is adverse to us and it's adverse to Extell for different reasons.
yeah, but it goes to sort of the totality of what Extell is going to be doing on the combined sites.
It's going to cost him a lot of floor area, which makes it and he can't, there's really no market for him, that from his point of view. And from our point of view, we can't even force him to give us more of what we want. We can't get anything.
Yeah.
I think it's worth a letter, you know, and maybe, you know, get Gail to sign in on it. It can't hurt.
Wait, Richard, you're talking about a letter to the mayor and first deputy?
No,
And
to
housing-
the,
LPC.
well, with a
Oh,
copy to
LPC.
them, a copy to them, but to ostensibly to the landmarks preservation.
Well, I suppose, Richard, we could ask our Preservation Committee co-chairs, of which I'm
Yeah.
mercifully not one, to
Yeah,
to consider that.
I think that would be very good.
We could do it. I would just flag that,
Oh, Adam is one.
yeah. The timing is such that we wouldn't get it until February. So I think it makes sense to see what the calendar looks like at LPC and see if we could actually get something out from full board in time for the rehearing. So
Why can't you,
I'll
why
keep
can't
it.
you do it until February?
Well, we would have to consider it in committee in January, and then we could vote on full board in February.
You know, that you don't have, a letter doesn't require full board, doesn't require a full board approval before it goes out. It gets ratified after the fact. But we've sent out letters before just from committee chairs and the executive committee. And it can be done early in January, I think.
If we want to
Okay.
consider this, someone should probably volunteer to draft what they think a letter would look like, and then at least we can know what we're talking about.
It's also based on the resolution that we've already passed, so it shouldn't be, it's nothing
Yeah.
really new that we're asking for.
Right. I mean, our practice really has been that if you don't stray beyond what you've already passed as a board, at full board, a letter is fine. You don't need any additional votes, other than, I guess it has to go out under the signature of the chair. but I think that's very appropriate. And
Yeah,
you could get
it is.
that out right away. I mean, it's not.
It's a little dicey here and would have to be carefully done because we don't have, I don't think, any kind of enforceable commitment at a minimum from Extel that it's going to be building any affordable housing at that site, even if it gets to demolition, which was the object of the LPC application. And also our own view, I think, was what Extel was proposing and sort of promising, but not in an enforceable way, was 90 studios for seniors, and that's not necessarily how we would want it configured either. But there may be a way to sort of dance around those issues and still say something. I would have absolutely no optimism that it would have any effect at LPC. But
I'll talk to Jen. We'll look.
Yeah.
I was not at the
Right.
meeting where there was a discussion, but I'll talk to
Right.
Jen. Obviously, the operative issue is whether or not the existing building should be saved. I don't think there's a tremendous amount of discussion about that at the meeting, and I don't think it's in a resolution. But if we can come up with some way of trying to send something pertinent to that issue, which I think is, I watched the LPC hearing, that was the pertinent issue. If there's something that we can do, we will. I'm just flagging that we didn't really discuss the pertinent issue that LPC did, so I don't want to, go
Adam,
out
it did,
of turn.
it
But
did
but
come
also,
up briefly in the meeting, insofar as the applicant said that they couldn't repurpose the building for housing because of the location of the core and a few other reasons. I think that's in the
Right.
resolution.
yeah,
Right.
but the LPC thing had nothing. The LPC thing is this building important to the district?
Oh,
And
I
I
see.
don't think we
Right.
discussed that. But I'll
And I
talk.
think there is a distinction between in the designation when the district was designated, historic district was designated, if they had said it's a non-contributing building, which they do say about
Well,
many
they'll
buildings,
stay.
that
they'll
would be
stay-
one thing, but they didn't describe it in that way.
Yeah, they also, it's not non-contributing, it's no style. Regardless, I think for the sake of the discussion tonight, I think I will talk to Jennifer and we'll see if there's something we could do. If
Sure.
not, we can take it up and discuss it in January.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to follow on to what Seema said, I mean, they did make a pretty objective and I would say credible case that the existing building, it's very hard to create housing in that building. And even further, I think it's almost impossible to do what we were requesting, which is make it taller to make more affordable units. So to the extent that we still have a desire to maximize the affordable housing at that site, I think it would, we would want to support the demolition and a building, even if it's not the one they propose, a taller one, like we put in the resolution. Like that, what we put in the resolution cannot happen without demolishing the existing building. So,
Right.
It follows from our resolution that we would support demolition in order to construct a fully affordable building there, hopefully, higher than the currently proposed floors. But even the currently proposed design is, of course, has more affordable housing than the alternative, which is leaving that building undemolished.
Right.
Howard?
Oh, I just wonder why we care which structure they put the affordable housing in. They're going to have to build the thing themselves. Why do we care?
They won't build affordable housing if this building isn't demolished because as Ira said, that it's cost prohibitive, maybe physically prohibitive.
Yeah.
Well,
It's both.
also it's part of a full block deep combination from ABC. So there's no rear yard. It is flush against the ABC building on the
I get all that. I just don't see why we don't ask for a certain amount of affordable housing and let them figure out how to configure it.
I mean, that's fine, Howard. I mean, we don't have to
Because-
care, but both the buildings that were affordable as proposed happen to be preserved buildings, so they have to come to us. So that's why we're opining. So
Yeah.
both this one they want to demolish, and the one on 66th Street they want to do a gut renovation and keep the same facade. So
It's-
maybe we
Okay.
care, maybe we don't, but they're going to come to preservation because
Okay.
because those
And,
buildings.
and it would be very
Okay.
easy if they can't do this, it'd be very easy for Gary Barnett to say, I wanted to build affordable housing. Historic preservation is why I couldn't do it. Like, this is really unfortunate. I wish I could have done it, but they made me keep this stupid building, so I
Well,
couldn't provide the affordable
Yeah,
housing. I
and
wanted."
Adam, that's kind of why I raised the issue tonight is that's kind of our concern is, oops, we thought we were getting 90 units of something and this is an excuse to not do it.
Well, from our perspective, we're on record as supporting it and even saying
Yes.
we like the affordability and we want more affordability.
Yeah.
Right.
I think we beat this to death by now.
I mean, the one thing you can use it for, because it's a commercial district and its current configuration is a commercial use or community facility use.
Right.
That's another problem. Because we'll have more people in that building than we will in the building we're proposing.
Is the building occupied now?
No,
No.
No,
The whole site is empty.
but it also doesn't help him because it obstructs his views of Central Park.
Mm-hmm.
So there are any number of reasons why he wants it down,
Right.
and we have as many reasons why we want it down. And as Adam mentioned, as a policy, when everybody wants it down,
Yeah.
can we get it down?
Of course, at the end of the day, we have no mechanism that I can figure out to make his a promise to put it in affordable housing legally binding.
That's exactly right as
Exactly.
well, I think.
We're depending upon the goodness of his heart.
Aha, that should be enough.
Next topic, please.
any other topics or should we call it?
Sounds good.
Does anyone in the public want to offer a topic? Any attendees?
Do we even have any?
We do, we have 5 attendees,
Oh,
but no one.
Dima,
Sounds
you
right.
you took the discussion of the other Charter Revision Commission off the agenda?
No. What I said is we're gonna do that in January.
Okay.
So, yes. So
I think
okay.
their stuff is drafted, and I don't think they're making amendments before they vote on it. So, I don't know to what extent a conversation is helpful, but we can discuss it then, obviously.
You know what I think would be helpful though is, and maybe you can help us with this as well, is maybe someone from the council, maybe yourself, can talk about the fair housing framework, the ballot measures that just passed, and these ballot proposals, and how that's going to change land use process going forward. Because I think there's a lot of moving pieces that, at least me, I'm not quite sure how they will fit together in the future.
Yeah, I'm happy to explain the 4 ballot questions.
Great. So maybe we start there. And also, we tried to look at the fair housing framework, but we didn't get very far. So maybe that's another thing we can also add into that discussion.
Yep.
so it sounds like we should all wish each other happy holidays and
Happy
Adjourn.
holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy
Happy
New Year.
holidays.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Relax,
Bye.
everybody.
we're adjourned.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Relax.
See you all next year.
See you January.